Alright, so this is actually the second part of a two-part finale kind of video I was doing for the Sonic Historical Marathon. Click here to watch the first part, which is my general opinions on all the games that I covered throughout the marathon itself. And this video that follows is my thoughts on how Sonic should be in the future. So just go watch the first part and come right back to this. So, being a Sonic fan in the year 2016 is certainly interesting, exciting, and at sometimes very aggravating. Now, most of this comes from all of the hype slash speculation for the next Sonic game, not Sonic Boom, Fire and Ice, but rather the Sonic 25th Anniversary title. Now, the reason that this is become kind of, I don't want to say a touchy subject, because that would just be fucking stupid if it was a touchy subject, but it's become something that a lot of people are talking about. If you're a Sonic fan, you basically can't avoid this, and I don't really see why you'd want to, because it's the next Sonic game. The general consensus on what the game is going to be is very, very split. There's a large portion of the Sonic fanbase that wants the game to be Sonic Adventure 3. It's a game that people have been waiting for years and years, and it's certainly got to live up to the name if it happens. I'll elaborate on that in a second. But there are also people that think that there's no way it can happen. There's people that think it's likely, but it's probably not the game that's going to be announced. It can go any direction. And really, it's interesting because Aaron Webber has been, teasing and poking at us and giving all these very interesting little hints and kind of little tidbits to latch onto on the Sonic social media. There was that thing with Madeon, how, first of all, I'm so thankful that they name dropped Madeon in that one kind of teaser image, because I've listened to the Adventure album many times and it's fucking awesome. But back to the subject matter, they name dropped him and said the key lies with Madeon, and because he has an album named Adventure. And, everyone wants Sonic Adventure 3, right? I mean, obviously not everyone, I'm generalizing here, of course. And then they, just recently, recently at the time of this recording, it's been about, probably maybe 2 months by the time this is out, they were like, can we use your music in a trailer? They basically worded it a little differently, but it was like that. And that is very interesting, because the Sonic Boom Fire and Ice trailer that was just released today did not have that song, so it must be for the 25th anniversary game. I can't imagine why they'd want to use a Madeon song in a Fire and Ice trailer and waste it. And there are just a lot of things like that. They know that we want Sonic Adventure 3. Believe me, they do. I went to Sonic Boom 2012, and I stood there in front of the crowd, and, well, not in front of the crowd, in part of the crowd, kind of behind it. And I watched as a question was asked. I can't remember what the question was exactly. I didn't get this part on video. But it was basically something to do with the Adventure series. And in front of Iizuka and all the other people on stage, the entire crowd started chanting SA3, SA3 over and over, very loud. And he knew that people were wanting it. They know that we want it. In my opinion, this is just to go on SA3, and then I'll get into overall future thoughts on Sonic games. In my opinion, if Sonic Adventure 3 doesn't happen for the 25th anniversary title, it's not going to happen, period. This is basically their last chance to put out Sonic Adventure 3. I can't imagine it being any fitting for any other year, except maybe the 30th. But if Adventure 3 is not a thing by that point, it's not going to be a thing, at least in my opinion. This is the last kind of opportunity for them to release it at a time where people want it. And they know that we want it. I want SA3 to happen. I really do. I mean, my favorite game is Adventure 2. I really want Adventure 3 to happen. But there's got to be a lot of things that are right with the game. I really want, the title can't just be SA3. It has to be Sonic Adventure 3. And I know that they're SA3. They're the same thing. I don't mean it in terms of the actual name. I mean, it has to live up to the name. It has to be worthy of having the name on it. Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed. I mean, Unleashed for sure was at one point called Sonic Adventure 3, And 06, you could basically call it the third adventure game, but it's not Sonic Adventure 3. There are a lot of things that it needs to be Sonic Adventure 3. 06 had a lot of those things, that's why you can call it kind of like the makeshift SA3 at this time. I don't want to call it anything close to that, because it's not worthy of the adventure title. So, as a kind of segue into what it has to have right with it, I'm going to go into my thoughts on how Sonic games should be going forward. Now, these are my opinions, these are my thoughts, and just, if you disagree with anything I say, don't take it personally. So I've jotted some of these down so I didn't forget them and rambled on my recording of this. But I'm going to start kind of broad and then get down to like specifics. So I'm going to end with like a really specific thing and then I'll kind of get broad again. But I want Sonic games to have the same level of ambition that we were shown could be present in a Sonic game with Sonic Unleashed. Sonic Unleashed it has so much passion and work and effort and ambition everywhere and care overall. It just has a lot of care put into it. You know, if you compare Sonic Unleashed to Sonic Lost World, it's like Lost World should have been released years before Unleashed. It's weird. And I've said this many times before, but what strikes me maybe the most about Unleashed is that it came after Sonic 06. And that's not to say 06 was not an ambitious title, but they came back with enough strength in the Sonic series to keep having ambition. And it seems like after Unleashed, that just kind of dwindled away. It's sad, because I think Sonic games should have this kind of grand feeling that Unleashed has, you know? In Japan, it's called Sonic World Adventure, and arguably in that game, it feels like you're on more of an adventure than you are in actual Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Because you're actually traveling to these places, you're going in these hub worlds, you're talking to all these new people, you're meeting new characters, you're going through all these different environments, not just because they're level tropes, but because they're like real-life world places that exist. You know, you're on a mission to get the Chaos Emeralds restored, and you end up in the middle of the Earth, like inside the Earth's core. Well, not inside the core, but inside like the Earth, battling like this giant monster. There's so much ambition there that it makes me respect Unleashed a lot. And sometimes it kind of rivals SA2 as my favorite game. SA2 is still definitely my favorite game, but Unleashed did so many things right that I just have to commend it for. And this is kind of where I draw back to Sonic Lost World. Sonic Lost World is a game that has such a small amount of ambition. It's very clear that they are kind of mimicking Nintendo in Sonic Lost World. The graphics look very similar to Nintendo games. It's played very safe. Sonic is slowed down. You know, that's not necessarily they saw Mario going slower and we're like, oh, we should slow him down. But I mean, it's just something that happened, and I wasn't a fan of it. I'm not a fan of Sonic Lost World. I want games to sort of have this attention to detail that Unleashed had. In the sense that, you know, not every game has to be like Unleashed. I'm not saying that it's the perfect example of what a Sonic game should be, but it's a damn good one. You know, in Unleashed, you could travel all around, you can do extra side missions and stuff, you can talk to random NPCs, and follow, like, their own little arcs, and just kind of do that, and that's completely optional. I want that kind of stuff in a new Sonic game. So, moving into the story, I am sick of Pontac and Graff's writing. I am so over it and ready for it to just be done. I want other people to write for Sonic. I don't think that I don't know if they write for the show Sonic Boom or not. I like Sonic Boom, but in terms of the games, we need some new writers. That's just something that we gotta fucking have. I'm sick of Sonic having this kind of babyish way of storytelling and talking and stuff kind of like that. It's completely like humor based. I want a story that has some like gripping seriousness to it, drawing back to my two favorite games, SA2 and Unleashed. There's, you know, there are little parts here and there that you can laugh at or whatever, but overall, it's not a lighthearted, laughy all the time experience. I don't want Sonic to run into like a new enemy and just have him be like, "Oh, I'm the best," and then just destroy it with like no hassle. I want Sonic to be like curb stomped. I want him to be like have his ass kicked and have a new like enemy to overcome. I think that would be so awesome to see. You know, a big part of Shadow's character in Adventure 2 is that he was basically equal to Sonic. And that was something that we haven't really seen, like, before that happened. And I think it could be a lot of fun to see again. I absolutely, without question, want to see new characters. And, you know, in Colors we got the Wisps, and in Lost World we got the Deadly Six, and that's not what I want. The Deadly Six are some of the most throwaway things ever put in a Sonic game in terms of characters. They're never explained. Sonic fights Zaz before even meeting the Deadly Six. Like, he just fights him for no reason. What the fuck is that about? They have no backstory. What the fuck is a Zeddy? It's never explained, let alone the Lost Hex as a whole. Tails just goes, "Oh, it's the Lost Hex." Of course. The planet that just floats inside of our other planet. As a side note here, I really want a concrete feeling of where the Sonic games are taking place. If you play SA2 and Lost World back to back, or let alone any Genesis game, it's like they're taking place in completely different worlds. I want like a general feeling of the Sonic world. I want it to be mapped out and fleshed out, and I want it to be explored. I don't want them to keep making a world like, for example, the 06 world with Soliana and stuff, or the literal world in Unleashed, or in Colors, I guess, gets a free pass because it was in the fucking like space and shit, or like Lost World, because there's like no sense of where you are. I want there to be a linking sense between games on where exactly it's all taking place, and it's just something that's, you know, in Lost World when it cuts to like Knuckles and Amy on like the grassy plain, or in Generations when they're in a very similar area for the birthday party. Like, I want to know where these places are. I'm sick of Sega like making a world and then giving up on it in future games and just starting from scratch. I want to see it fleshed out. Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2 take place in very similar environments. You know, in Sonic, he's in Station Square, and then he's in a similar kind of city. Maybe it's a different city, maybe it's not at the beginning of SA2. But it's at least, you could definitely say it's the same world. Like, it's got the very similar environments, it's got human people, it's got cars and stuff. Lost World doesn't have any of that. It's just this make-believe Mario world where anything goes, and there's endless variables. I don't want that. I want Sonic to be grounded somewhere that we can point to and say, hey, this is Sonic's world. Sorry, I went off on a little tangent there. I was talking about new characters. I want new characters, absolutely, but I want them to have purpose for being in the game, an explanation for who they are, and a backstory. They have to have at least two of those things to be an actual, like, good new character in a Sonic game. I don't want new characters to be introduced just for the sake of new characters being introduced. If Sega isn't going to do any of those three things with the new characters, then I don't want any new characters ever again. That's what they have to have. Shadow was introduced in SA2, and automatically he got more backstory than any character out of, like, the entire cast. I want to see that stuff again. Silver was introduced, and he has a backstory where he comes from the future where everything's fucked up and he has to save it. You know, 06 did some things right, and it's really a shame that Sega, like, I feel like their mentality is they just look at 06 and think everything collectively was a failure, and that's why it did bad. That's not true. There were things in the game that showed promise and showed ambition and showed that they still cared about doing stuff, writing characters. And I mean, I know in like the storyboards or character notes for the game, they basically said Silver was Trunks from Dragon Ball Z. But he still had like purpose for being there. Now, I want new characters to have backstories and shit. I want there to be new characters, period. However, something I want more than that to happen first is character development and a general fleshing out of all the characters we already know. I'm kind of sick and fed up with just how, Sonic, oh, he's got an attitude. Ha! Knuckles is the strong one. Tails is the fucking smart one. Amy is the one that likes Sonic. Like, they should have more traits than just their, like, main defining feature. That just goes with general character design and writing and just wanting to make these characters actual characters. They have to be dynamic. Static characters are very boring in any kind of media, whether it be a movie, a game, a show, anything like that. And I think Sonic characters as a whole have kind of become so formulaic that you just always know what they're gonna do. And a lot of this stuff goes back to ambition. I want Sega to, like, see these characters and form them and create, like, who these people are, personalities, I feel that, in a sense, why so much Sonic fanfiction is written to begin with is because I think Sonic fans are kind of taking it upon themselves to understand these characters and maybe, obviously to self-insert and see, like, make the characters what they all want them to be. But I think it's also a sense of Sega isn't doing their job with making these characters actual characters, so let's do it on our own. I was talking with Evan and Kyle. Evan being from the Marduk YouTube channel, and he brought up this point where in this interview with BioWare, working with Sonic Team on Sonic Chronicles, he meant this as a compliment, but Evan did not take it this way. He said, Sonic Team was so very free with giving us, like, permission on what we could do with their characters. And they were saying that as a positive thing, but as Evan explained, and I totally agree with, that's not really a positive thing. Like, what if any creator out there had these characters that they, like, made and formed and just gave them to whatever studio and said, do whatever you want with them? Have some pride in these characters that you've made. Like, show them care and a sense of being and why they're even in the game to begin with. I want to see some, like, really cool, awesome, like, gripping, maybe dramatic part of a Sonic game, or like an awesome twist that happens that no one expected, or, some disagreement to happen in a Sonic game between, like, good guys and stuff, and maybe someone becomes an anti-hero or something. That would be so fucking cool to see in a story in a Sonic game. I would fucking lose my shit. That'd be awesome. Just to summarize the story element as a whole, we gotta get better writers. We have to have better writers writing the dialogue for these games. Pontac and Graf serve their purpose. I think they're past their prime. They just gotta be replaced. That's my honest opinion. Now, in terms of arguably what a lot of people think matters the most in any games, the gameplay. I would say gameplay is, like, first, like, priority. If a game has a great story and shit gameplay, then that's not fun. It's a game. It's what you do. You play it. It's supposed to be enjoyable. That's supposed to be a fun, like, time-passing, like, hobby. If the game is bad and the story's good, then it sucks. It sucks for the game studio, it sucks for the game, it sucks for the people that like the game. And you know what? If a game has a shit story and great gameplay, then at least it's fun, At least it's a lot of fun to play through. If you asked 10 Sonic fans what Sonic should play like nowadays, you could probably get 10 different answers. This comes from Sega and Sonic Team spreading Sonic's gameplay style so across the table. Like, there's the Genesis gameplay, and then there's the 3D gameplay, and then there's the boost gameplay, and then there's, like, the slightly boost but not really kind of 2D platforming gameplay that Colors had, and then there's, like, the new classic gameplay like Generations Classic Sonic had, and just so many more in between. So, in my personal opinion, I think Sonic himself should control in this kind of middle ground between the adventure formula and the boost formula. I think both work very well, but if Sega and Sonic Team could find some way to combine them and meet a middle ground that, like, uses the best of both worlds, basically, I think that would be, like, the perfect kind of play style for Sonic as a whole going forward in many games. I think Sonic Team should stick with this style, stick with a style that works. Kind of what they were doing with the boost style for a while. They should stick with a style that works, and just that. Maybe stray away here and there, but always kind of come back to a central gameplay style. Something I recently noticed, or, you know, you can notice it right away, but definitely, like, something I took the time to, like, think about recently was that, you know how Sonic Generations is modded so much and new levels are put in? You notice that when they put levels from Adventure or Adventure 2, the paths that Sonic is on are so much wider. And this goes for not just levels that are ported by fans. This goes for, you know, all levels in modern Sonic games. Mostly Generations I'm talking about right here. The paths that the character takes are much wider to kind of accommodate that the new, like, how Sonic controls in those kinds of games. I don't want to say that any of those games that have smaller paths are just completely linear, because they're not really necessarily. I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that the pathing and the spaces that Sonic is allowed to move in Generations type gameplays are much larger and wider and more open. Whether that's a good or bad thing, that's completely up to whoever wants to think about it. I personally think that smaller paths are kind of more fun, but I like when it gives you the choice to kind of open up. Now, this is just me making a little observation in Sonic games. Maybe it's just for some levels they did in Sonic Generations, whatever. But I just think that the smaller pathing works better, or at least I have more fun in it. So, now that I've covered kind of what Sonic should be, or what I would like Sonic to be, I definitely think there should be more gameplay styles. Like, I miss playing as other characters. You know, think of all the times we've played as Sonic recently. The last time we played as actual other characters was, like, Sonic 06. And I'm talking about mainstream games right here, not like Sonic Rush or, you know, all those side games, or, you know, where you can play as Blaze or something. I'm talking about the mainstream Sonic games. The last time you could play as other characters was Sonic 06. I mean, if you want to count the Werehog, whatever, it's still Sonic. I want new and different gameplay styles. I want to be able to play as, like, Knuckles again, or Tails, or, like, a new character that they introduce. I want to be able to do that. Sonic's fun, and he's my favorite character, but these other characters are there, so why not use them? Why not be able to play as them? In Sonic Adventure 2, you could play as fucking Dr. Eggman. Like, when can you ever do that in another game again that isn't a spin-off? How cool would it be to experience a story from both sides and be able to play as the bad guys again? That's a very cool concept that Sega and Sonic Team should, you know, explore more. Or just any character, just, like, let me play as anyone. Just let me play as someone other than Sonic. Sonic's good, and keep him as the main part of the game, make him have the most levels and stuff, but let other characters get in on the action. They're missing out. So, main gameplay styles out of the way, I want other, like, optional side things in games. For example, the missions in SA2. You know, it's the same level, but with a different playstyle involved. Find the Lost Chow, go to this alternate route and find, like, a lost thing. Play the hard mode of the game, where they change, like, a little bit of the level, throw more enemies at you, change the level geometry just a little bit. And, I think that stuff is so cool. Or a better example is, like, how Unleashed had, like, you could download the Apatow DLC and get a couple levels for that level. Like, it's still, like, Apatow, and you can still tell it is, but it has a completely new path to take, and it's some of them are really fucking difficult. That is really cool, and granted it's DLC, I think that's something that they should give you initially. I think that's something they should have you maybe unlock, or however they want to go about it, not necessarily as DLC, but have that kind of replay value. Sonic Adventure 2 was a game that had an amazing amount of replay value, and a big part of that was the Chow system. And I don't really see them ever bringing the Chow system back, but I would absolutely be in so much love with them if they did. If they brought the Chow system back, that would be just too fucking amazing for me. But that's one reason SA2 was so replayable, but not the only one. I mean, there's all the emblems and stuff to unlock, there's all the extra level missions to do, and to A-rank everything, and to get Green Hill by completing it all. You know, I've 100%ed SA2 4 times. I've unlocked Green Hill 4 times on 4 different systems. I've done it on the Dreamcast, I've done it on the GameCube, the PS3, and the PC. And I'm well on my way to doing it more times in the future. It's something I don't get sick of and I like doing. That's just me on Adventure 2. That's my opinion on that. But I think there should be optional little side things that you can do. Another example, SA2 and Adventure in some regard gave you like an extra little like kart racing thing just because they could. Like that is completely absent now. Where are things like that? I'm not saying that having a kart racing thing or whatever you want to do in like the secret other level stuff is a make or break deal. I'm getting more into the smaller things as I go. But replay value I think is definitely a very large component of what makes a good Sonic game, or what makes a good game period. Don't you want to be able to come back to the game and do extra shit outside the main campaign that you already did? And this leads me to wanting a longer playtime for games. Sonic Generations is a game you can beat in one sitting, no doubt about it. You can absolutely beat that shit in one sitting, and that's just like, you know, kind of sad. It's sad that this game was built up so much and had so much hype behind it, and it was the 20th anniversary of Sonic, and the game could be beaten in an hour. That kind of makes it feel not that grand. Sonic Unleashed is a game that absolutely takes multiple sittings. I mean, if you can beat that game in one sitting if you don't sleep and don't have a life, but you're gonna turn the console off and come back to it and continue to play it. Adventure 2 can admittedly be beaten in one sitting, but most people probably don't. I mean, I probably would, but that's just me. I like SA2 a lot. It can be beaten in one sitting, but it isn't necessarily. And Sonic Adventure is a game that's not beaten in one sitting. Sonic 06, absolutely not a game that's beaten in one sitting. But now fast forward into newer games. I'm not counting Rise of Lyric because it wasn't Sonic Team that made it. It doesn't get a free pass for being a bad game. It's certainly a fucking awful looking game. I haven't touched it, so I'm not going to say anything concrete. But it looks horrible, but at least Sonic Team didn't make it. I'm focusing more on games like Generations and Lost World, because those are the 2 most recent modern Sonic games that we've gotten. Sonic Lost World is... I haven't sat down and actually played through it all. From what I've played, I'm sure you could beat it in one sitting. I don't even want to, but you definitely... If you like the game, you can. I think that's something, though, that should be, like, rewarded. If you like the game, it should be longer so you can play more of it. A game like Generations, you can beat it in 1 hour. Lost World, you can beat it in however long it takes to do a full run-through of that game. But I want a game that will take me, like, you know, days to complete, or like a week. If I set it down for a couple days and come back to it, I can pick up where I left off and not have the game already beaten on my file. I want more bang for my buck, basically. So, a few more little side notes I want in newer Sonic games. I want vocal songs to make a comeback. I am missing those like no one's business. I think vocal songs are some of the things that define and kind of represent the Sonic music as a whole in the games, and it's completely absent now, and it's sad. I really miss them, and I think they hinted at Crush 40 performing music for the next game, and that's great. If we have a vocal theme, I'm already fucking giving a thumbs up. We gotta have some better looking graphics. I mean, Unleashed looks better than Lost World, and Lost World came out like, what was it, like 4 or 5 years after Sonic Unleashed did? Generations, another game, it came out in 2011, Unleashed came out in 2008. Unleashed looks better. It just does. In the cutscenes, in the level design graphics, in the... Well, Generations didn't even have CG cutscenes. They really fucking dropped the ball on that. In the CG cutscenes, it looks like fucking Pixar in Sonic Unleashed. It's breathtaking, and I want that look again. I want like, to be in awe over how beautiful they can make a game look again. And as a very small side note, I would really like the 2D Yuji Uwakawa art to come back on the, in general, but like be on the cover of the box. If it's Sonic Adventure 3, I'd really love it to have some 2D Uwakawa art on it, like how he had his Sonic Adventure and Adventure 2 style and stuff like that. I would really love to see that again. So, to summarize, I want a lot of things in the next Sonic game. I want a lot of personal, wants, and I'd like Sonic to be like this, I'd like Sonic to be like that. I think it all just boils down to, I want more bang for my buck, but more importantly, I just want Sonic to be in a better place. Sonic has become just a joke to the gaming community. And it's like, you can get mad at them, but can you really blame them for what Sega has done to some of the games? And just compare it to other stable franchises that, like, every new installment is just fine and good and everyone loves it. I'd love for new Sonic games to, like, pull in an audience that isn't just fans that are already there. They've focused so much lately on older concepts. Oh, Motobugs. Remember Motobugs? Remember this from the Sonic past? Remember this and that? And all these old stuff, rather. Meanwhile, they don't focus on catering more to fans who haven't played a Sonic game before. If someone started with Sonic Lost World as their first Sonic game, I feel fucking awful for them. That is a horrible start to a Sonic game, or getting into Sonic. If someone started with Generations, that's cool, but I feel like you have much more appreciation for it if you've played Sonic games for years. I think they should, and I think this is something they tried to do with Sonic 06. I mean, they failed at a lot of stuff with Sonic 06, but I think this is something they definitely tried to do, was pull in any kind of person and make them a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. That's why it was kind of a reboot, and that's why those two concepts kind of go hand in hand. I just want Sonic to be in a better place. I don't want, you can joke about his past all you want, but I want present Sonic to move forward and get better, and not be a joke among everyone in the fan base or everyone in the gaming community. I want him to be a character that's taken seriously. I want him to have some integrity in his games. I want anyone to be able to enjoy Sonic games, not just Sonic fans. Isn't that such an interesting idea? Like, the only people that can enjoy something are the fans that are already established and with the series to begin with. What do you think got the fans to this point initially? They had factors that anyone could have played and enjoyed. Sonic Lost World, I honestly don't see how anyone can legitimately enjoy that game. There's so many things wrong with it, but that is just my opinion. They're focusing so much on what Sonic did, rather than focusing on what Sonic could do. They're too stuck in the past to move their feet forward into the future. And that is something that I really want them to do with not only the anniversary game, but all subsequent games that follow. I want them to be able to make callbacks to things that happened in other games or in the past of Sonic and say, yes, that happened, but now we're moving forward. We're doing new things, and Sonic Team has always done new things. They made fucking Wisps, and they made the Deadly Six in Lost World and the new control scheme of Lost World, but I want those things to be good. I want those things to feel at home with Sonic. Wisps, they don't feel like they belong. It's like they were just in Lost World for no reason. Like, why were they even there? They weren't explained. I don't know, man. I just want... This is what it boils down to. I just want the game, and all games that follow, to be good. I just want it to be universally good. like how some of the games in the Sonic fanbase are, but now people are suddenly, oh, Sonic Adventure 2 actually sucks. Shut up. It's one of the most fucking, like, appreciated games of the franchise. Yeah, if it's your opinion that it sucks, dude, whatever. My opinion, your opinion, no opinion is right, okay? Unless it's like, I personally think people shouldn't kill people. Yeah, obviously people shouldn't fucking kill people, but if you're arguing over what the fuck a Sonic game should be like, no one's opinion is right, okay? They're not gonna please everyone, and that's something you can't ever do in life, period. You cannot please everyone that is waiting for you to make something. That's just not gonna happen. I would like for a sole majority of the Sonic fanbase and the people that could potentially get into Sonic or have bashed him in the past, I want the sole majority of those people to like the next game and games that follow. I want people to have a more positive image of Sonic. I want people to be able to look at a Sonic game and say, hey, I'm gonna give this a chance. I looked at the trailer for Fire and Ice today. It's like, it doesn't have any fucking character to it. It just used clips from the TV show and like some little gameplay parts, but there's nothing that's pulling me in and saying, wow, what a different experience that they're creating on the 3DS. I must buy the game. At this point, I think I'm just rambling. So, to sum it up, I want the next game, especially the next game, but also games that follow, to put Sonic in a good place permanently. Yeah, he's gonna fall. You're gonna rise and you're gonna fall and you're gonna trip and land on your face, but you gotta get back up. Sonic is a great example of that. He's fallen at least twice, and he's fallen hard. So, I guess for the next game, I just want him to get back up, and for him to get back up stronger than he ever has before. I'm PipLipFan77. Thank you for watching the marathon. Thank you for listening to my thoughts on what I think Sonic games should be like. I really appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.